Migration, a significant concept that changed the dynamics of the world thousands of years ago and still continues to change it today. For years, people have moved around the world, immigrating from one country to another for a variety of different reasons. It is through migration that we are who we are. My story of migration started way back in the 1600s, and this was when the story of me began too. I was born in South Africa in 1992. Hold on, I bet you're wondering how the story of me began in the 1600s, as that's a fair bit before my time. Well, let me explain. The history of my family in South Africa, generations ago, dates back to the 1600s, when multiple nations came down to South Africa. It is through this migration that I am who I am today, with my blood being made of many different kinds of nationalities. So, this is how it all began. In the 1600s, the Dutch East India Company was established to trade between Asia and Europe. In 1652, it was decided that a halfway trading post would be needed in Cape Town where the ships could replenish their food supplies. After several years, the workers were able to lease a piece of land in the colony as a vryburger and cultivate crops to sell to the Dutch East India Company. In 1727, Giel Andries van der Walt settled in Cape Town as a sailor for the VOC. Many French Huguenots left France to settle elsewhere after Louis XIV revoked the Edict of Nantes, which was a protection for the Huguenots to practice their religion without persecution. In 1688, the first French Huguenots settled in Cape Town. They mixed with the general Vryburger population, and Andrea de la Porte was amongst the first to arrive. In 1734, Johann Christian Darwin arrived in South Africa from Germany, along with 4,000 other German males. Majority were sailors or employees of the Dutch East India Company. Due to the similarity in their native language and that of the Dutch population, there was no need to establish separate identities, resulting in a uniting group. Finally, William Henry Richards arrived in South Africa from England in 1920, seeking fame and fortune. At this time, Africa was seen as the land of opportunity, with the gold rush and Kimberley diamonds being the forefront of this movement. With a number of nationalities under the same roof, there was bound to be some fighting. The British and the Dutch formed the largest migrant groups in South Africa during the time. The British seized Cape Town in 1795, and many of the Boers or Dutch fled north and established Boer republics, now known as the Free State and Gauteng. There was always a rival between the two migrant groups, and the discovery of gold and diamonds eventually led to the British trying to seize the Boer republics. So what's the relevance of this? Well, interestingly enough, I now have British and Boer blood in me, so clearly foes became friends. Okay, so how does all of this relate to me exactly? Well, you know all those names I threw at you earlier? They are all my ancestors from either side of my family. This guy, Giel Andries van der Walt, was on my dad's paternal side and hence the likeness in our surnames. Andrea de la Porte, well, he is a great, however many more greats grandfather on my paternal side, making de la Porte my grandmother's maiden name. Then there was the German guy, Johann Christian Darwin, who was an ancestor of Jan Smuts, an influential Prime Minister of South Africa. Darwin is my mum's maiden name, which means Johann goes way back on my maternal grandfather's side. Finally, William Henry Richards came along, seeking job opportunities. This relation is on my maternal grandmother's side, linking in the British side of me. These relations are but a snippet of me, with half my relations missing in the mix of things. But even with this slither of family migration history, it is evident that I'm a bit of a mixture, with a range of nationalities making me who I am. My story doesn't end here though, because as you can see I'm no longer in South Africa, and instead I'm standing here with you in Australia. I started my own migration in 2008, when my family decided to pack up base in South Africa and move over to an island called Australia. We didn't move to set up a halfway port, nor were we persecuted because of our beliefs. We moved for opportunity and safety. We embarked on our journey in April 2008, arriving in Australia on the 15th. I've been in Australia for almost 7 years now, and can proudly say I'm an Australian citizen. It is here where my story will continue for now, as I begin the next chapter in my family migration, and who knows where my children or I will end up years from now.